Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good afternoon. This Friday, December 9th. I am Robert Press, your host, the official reporter for the Bronx Chronicle, as well as several other papers, including the Parkchester Times, Co-op City News, and now here on Parrot TV. If you notice, I'll be alone today. My former co-host, and I say former co-host, has decided to debark from the show, and I'll be doing the show alone until I get a new co-host. I've tried out one last week, Dion Powell, and if you would like to be a co-host on this show, just give me a call at 718-644-4199. That's my cell phone number, or you can email me at 100, then everything comes in letters, PERCENTBRONXNEWS @gmail.com. That's 100% Bronx News @gmail.com. And we'll try you out as a guest host. For instance, Kevin Diola, if you're listening out there, I'd like to have you on, say, next week or the following week to talk about bike lanes and the new Bronxdale Avenue bike lane and how it's affecting people and what your opinion is as one of the transportation alternatives and a bike rider. But let's get to our agenda today. Lots of news happening. We found out that WNBA star Brittany Griner is free now from a Russian jail. The cost was a Russian terrorist who was in an American jail, so it's a prisoner swap. And people are saying because of that, now the Russians will be taking more of our Americans into their custody so they can get more of their prisoners back. I don't know about that, but at least she's back. Hopefully she can go and play back in the WNBA right now, and everything will be fine. Speaking of sports, Aaron Judge is staying in New York. He signed a $360 million deal for 9 years. And the 31-year-old right now will wind up at 40 at the end of his career, hopefully. We don't know how well he'll do. He's not been doing that well during his first few years. He had a tremendous year last year. And normally what happens after baseball players come off a great year like that, they normally have injuries the next year or two. So let's see how well Aaron Judge does. I personally would have thought he would go into San Francisco with the warm weather to stay away from the snow and the cold in New York. And, that's basically where he grew up to, from what I understand. But we'll see. Next, we have Attorney General Tish James. Her chief of staff resigned over allegations of sexual harassment. The question is, how long did the Attorney General know this was going on? People are saying this went on for months. That's why she didn't run for governor. Well, maybe people said to her, if you run for governor, this scandal is going to come out about your chief of staff. So, and maybe that's why she didn't debate her opponent on TV, because she didn't want anything to come out. But Tish James won. She won narrowly, about 55 or 56% to 44%, which was not a good showing. All statewide elected officials, Democrats, normally get in their 80% range, only had about in the 50s, the mid-50s. So it was not a good showing for all Democratic state elected officials. Next, we have Mayor Adams. I don't know where to start with Mayor Adams, but the rat man, as some people call him, had a charge of that he had rats in his Brooklyn premises. He got a fine for $300, which he beat. It seems that there was a rat infestation at his Brooklyn property. He said, nearly $7,000 in March trying to drive out those furry interlopers. According to Mayor Adams, he showed off his rat trap that he, as Brooklyn Borough President, created that lures rats into a vat, then landing them onto a base and drowning their carcasses. Well, if that's the way Mayor Adams wants to do it, I'm sure that there'll be, animal rights activists going against him for drowning the rats. At the hearing, though, he convinced the hearing officer that employing an exterminator who would clean out the burrows in the foundation cracks would do the trick. The ruling was Mr. Adams placed rat traps around the property and helped educate and encourage his neighbors to take similar steps to combat the infestation. It was unclear, though, on Thursday evening whether the rats were all gone, but so the ticket all of a sudden vanished. So obviously they must have cleaned up the rats if the ticket went away. Mayor Adams, though, has what can I call it, an aggressive agenda to build 500,000 new homes in the next decade. Now, does he mean homes or does he mean apartments or units? That's the question that wasn't answered. If it's homes, there's no problem. Let's find the land and build homes. But it appears to be units because he's talking about putting 6,000 new homes by the Metro North stations. The two, one in Morris Park and one in Parkchester Van Nest. Well, I can tell you from experience, I expect it to be happening in Van Nest because the properties over there were filled with group homes, and the prices and values of the homes went down. So now developers can buy those homes and build big apartment buildings. We have a whole block on Parkchester on the other side on East Tremont Avenue by White Plains Road and Unionport Road. That is empty. The stores that were there were torn down years ago, and it's been empty waiting for the new Metro North station. Probably that 20-story building will go there with stores on the bottom, offices, and then homes on top of it. You could probably get about 200 or 300 new homes there. Speaking of that, there's a problem because people are saying that in Council District 13, and they're complaining to Marjorie Velazquez that there wasn't enough new homes or units built in Council District 13. They say only 58 new units of affordable housing was built. Now, I find that a little crazy because in Community Board 11, where this so-called Just Home project, which we'll get into a little later, the Community Board 11 in the Allerton area, again, where property is cheap, houses are being bought up, and apartment buildings are being built. We're getting 40-unit buildings, 60-unit buildings. As a matter of fact, there's a new building going up in Pelham Parkway. Wherever people can find space, houses are going up, and apartment buildings with units. And it's no longer a family unit of 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms. These are single studios, 450 square feet, 500 square feet, 600 square feet. So they're meant for 1, maybe 2 at most. All right, no more family units, it's single units. This way you won't need new schools, okay? But what you're doing is we're gonna wind up like Tokyo, where you have tall buildings wherever you look, and people have to ride with bicycles because there's no room for cars. That's what the Bronx is turning into. If you look at our roads are tied up. The Bruckner is always jammed. The Major Deegan is always jammed. The Bronx River Parkway is always jammed down by the Cross Bronx, and the Cross Bronx is jammed from the George Washington Bridge to the Bruckner Interchange. So you build more houses or bring more people in, you're going to bring more cars. It's not the rich people who use the cars. They use taxis or the Metro North trains. It's the people that live in these affordable houses who have the cars. They have 1, 2, or even 3 cars. So, you're defeating your own purpose if you're building these new homes without any infrastructure. Now, on to Just Home. The Just Home proposal is for right now 50. Now, they've gone down from 72 to 50 new, they want to turn building number 2 into a dispensary. Okay, that's about the best thing I can say about it. It's for prisoners, or I should say, people who are currently in Rikers Island, of which there are 86% that are pretrial, which means there are only 14% of the people are in jail in Rikers Island. When I say pretrial, they are pretrial because they could not make bail. Now, they have to be pretty serious criminals if they couldn't make bail if we have a no-cash bail law. All right? Only very serious criminals are held in Rikers Island now. And it's a shame that these people have to be held in Rikers. All right. I mean, I agree with Senator Bailey, who was the sponsor of No Cash Bail, and they used Khalif Browder as their poster boy, who was put in jail because he stole a backpack, supposedly. All right. And the judge kept him in, and that judge just happened to be our current district attorney, Darcel Clark, who just said at each time the case came up, well, we don't have the evidence, well, whatever. I have no idea what she said, but she kept him in jail for over 2 years, and the poor kid committed suicide. So I commend Senator Bailey for trying, but when you try one thing, you go a little too far. And, we have our current situation. The police can't do anything. Stores are closing because they're being robbed to death. And I don't know what else to say. Let me just come back for a second. Okay, so we're going to go to a commercial right now, and hopefully I'll come back with my guest to talk a little more about Just Home.
Do you wish your business makes it to the top list of the most searched for business in the US and around the world? Or are you searching for halal compliant services and products online? Then Halal Finder is your online resource directory pointing you to the right places and products. Let's help you explore halal products and services of your choice as we manage many halal businesses across the world. Promote your business with halalfinder.com, the only plug you need to grow. Our services include business listing, digital marketing, branding strategy, SEO campaigns, crowdfunding, and humanitarian support. On our Compassion Corner, we offer crowdfunding of halal ventures and humanitarian services. In this section, you can make or receive donations, start donation campaign, and check existing donation campaigns. And by paying zakat and sadaqah to our Compassion platform on halalfinder.com, you have supported the poor, widows or widowers, orphans, and the likes around the world. Contact us at info@halalfinder.com or call +1 718 822 5555. Get started today at halalfinder.com.
Okay, I'd like to welcome my guest now. It's Ms. Renata Rafi. So please, and Renata is one of the mothers of Against 1900 Seminole Avenue. Please introduce yourself, Renata.
Hi, Bob. It's Renata. My name is Renata Rafi. I'm a part of 1900 Mothers Against Seminole Avenue. Our project is the sole intent to stop the Fortune Society from building this experimental project with pre-trial detainees.
I was speaking a little about that. It's the Health and Hospitals Corporation, actually,
Yes.
and Fortune Society will be running it. Now, right. Fortune Society, as we know, runs some of these projects for, they make a lot of money on them, but these are for prisoners that are former convicts or they're let out of jail, they've served their time, and some are excellent, people. Others, though, they do have problems, they say, at some of their places. But this is, like you said, this is going to be an experiment because these are not released convicts or released prisoners or whatever you want to call them, detainees, but these are people who will be either pre-trial or they will still be in jail because they have medical conditions. That's why they're in a certain unit at Rikers Island. Now, these new jails that are being built won't have facilities to take care of any real sick patients. That's why they need to have homes near for these people at the hospitals. Not only is Jacoby going to be used, but the 2 top floors of North Central Bronx. And I'm surprised that our Bronx elected officials aren't screaming that why are all of these prisoners from Rikers Island throughout the city, from Staten Island, from Brooklyn, from Manhattan, and Queens, all going to be just in Bronx? Why is there not a fair share? Why are they not being put in Queens? Why are they not putting in Brooklyn? Why are they not being put in Staten Island? Why are they not being put in Manhattan? these sick patients. Why are they only going to Bronx hospitals, correct?
Yes, I mean that's very important too. I mean, a lot of people think that we don't want them here and we're not trying to help the community or try to help these people. But I mean, the facts still remain the same. There's no straight recidivism rate if these people are rehabilitated. There's no experimental somewhere away from where their kids, and there's 5 schools located directly close to these where these people are. There's no information as to what they have been convicted of. There's no information as to what type of people will be coming here, with no idea. I mean, Joanne Page, who is head of the Fortune Society, said in a community board meeting that she compared a rapist to maybe a Romeo and Juliet situation. And yes, I'm not saying that they aren't any. Some might be, some kid might be 16, the other kid might be 17. That's one age difference. I'm talking about a grown-ass man who's 30 years old that wants to try to do something to my daughter who's 3 years old. That's a problem, and that's a sex offender. People don't become sex offenders because they're in a Romeo and Juliet situation. I should hope not in today's society. So all this information that they're giving us in this experiment with no recidivism rate, and the biggest thing that people seem to miss is the whole security. Who's going to be patrolling these people? When we've asked them time and time again as to who's going to be patrolling them, who's going to make sure that if they have a curfew, how's that curfew going to be enforced? Or what exactly will their rights be here? So they could come and go as they please. Then why are they not in jail? Why are they have to be housed here at a facility where that's close to a hospital? I understand they need medical needs, but the jails have been operating for over 70 years. Aren't these people receiving some form of medical treatment in jail? And if they aren't receiving the best medical treatments in jail, maybe the system should think about providing them with better types of treatments in jail, as opposed to trying to put a whole community at risk to try to get them the proper treatment. I don't think that.
Go ahead, continue.
Oh, no, that's it. You could go, Bob.
It's all about the almighty dollar, because Health and Hospitals took over in 2016 from Montefiore Hospital, who used to treat the prisoners inside. And it's the almighty dollar, because instead of having to send their doctors and their equipment into Rikers or into the new prisons, okay, because these new borough-based jails aren't going to have the space to handle these people. They're going to be 15, 20 stories tall, and they're just going to be jails. They're not going to be able to treat people who are sick. They're not going to be able to treat people who need, their blood transfusions, their dialysis. That won't be in these new borough jails. That's already in Rikers Island. So we're going to see a lot of difference, and I don't know why these facilities aren't in these borough jails, because, it's a shame. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah. What I want to say is that exactly that if these patients really need dialysis treatments or something like that, why can't they be transported to the hospital to get the treatment and then transported back to jail? Again, it just seems so. Getting back to the point I was trying to make is that we went to the 49 precinct, because in recent articles they're saying that Jacoby is going to be built by the 49 precinct, and the 49 precinct is one of the safest areas in here, but they're already overwhelmed, and they said they will not be adding any extra protection. So is Health and Hospital going to be funding extra funds to the 49 precinct to give them money to help them patrol these excess people that are coming here? Or is it going to be, oh no, we don't have the funding, but we have the funding to build a facility?
Well, if you saw the mayor's new plans for the Metro North stations, Parkchester, Van Nest, and Morris Park, you will see that there is the parking lot at Jacoby Hospital is slated for homes. Okay, yes. So I mean, we're going to get 6,000 new people supposedly in by the two new train stations. Right. So
again, it goes back to the thing: are we going to fund a police station that's around here that's already completely understaffed? And the 49 precinct is the highest precinct that has the highest turnover rates. People just come here to get their foot in the door. They make a name for themselves, and then they leave to go to Westchester, to go to Long Island, or to go to a better, cushier place, because that's right. What they provided here for.
At the last 3 precinct council meetings, each different officer who was in charge including the captain of the precinct, has said, we are understaffed, we are overworked, we have more calls than previous years, and our police officers are just going from stop to stop, taking care of business. All right. They are no longer being proactive. They're just being reactive, looking at video to see who committed what and trying to catch that person. All right.
Correct.
But a lot of crimes, they're not even going after. They're not going to this. All right. That's why Walgreens closed, because the police will not take in shoplifters, because these shoplifters are just coming in, going right out. That's no cash bail.
I mean, Walgreens has closed up the block from us explicitly over the reason of the amount of theft that took place at that store. People would go in there with a carriage and just walk right on out, and nobody would say anything about it.
That's correct. And that's a shame, because it's a loss to the community.
It is.
I see some work going on in there, but I'm afraid that area with the big parking lot might be turned into housing.
Correct. Turned into another housing, and just saturating these areas around here that shouldn't be saturated. That we already have max capacity. I mean, our sewer systems. What about that big sewer system that keeps collapsing on Radcliffe Avenue? It collapsed 2 times in 1 year, and it's strictly to do with the overusage of the sewer system. That's why a street. It was on the news. Every news outlet covered it, because the second sinkhole took out half the street.
Well, not only that,
like we're at capacity here, and everybody has these ideas about expanding, but okay, I'm all for expansion and all for growth, because that is life. But also, how are we going to fix what we have now? Like, security is this area's number one concern, no? And even Jacoby, how's Jacoby going to protect its staff members against these criminals that are going to be walking around? The nurses, the doctors, the maintenance staff. How are they going to be able to feel safe to walk out of their building to go to the car, knowing that there might be a criminal there waiting for them? Or what happens if one of those criminals during the daytime just decide to go rob the parking lot and rob every single car? So all these people are going to come back to broken windows?
Well, as it is, we had a shooting in the emergency room, if you remember.
Yes.
Kobe. And
broad
really,
daylight. The guy was in the middle of an asthma attack, but he didn't like the other guy, so he decided, why not? Let's just start shooting some bullets.
And the hospital police are unarmed.
Correct.
Okay, so what are they
going to be doing? Running the other way too, like everybody else.
But also, one thing that you should know: people who are getting appointments at Jacoby are being told to go to other hospitals where there are openings. All right. Now, I had an experience with the dental crew over at Jacoby. The plan that I have, my health plan, has Jacoby as a dental provider.
Okay.
So I went there, and I was told, sit down. You may have to wait all day, and you may not get called. So I said, can I have an appointment? And I was looked at, what's an appointment? So I called my friend, Mr. John Doyle, who is the communication director at Jacoby Hospital, and said, John, what is this? People have to sit here for days and not get seen, or a whole week or whatever, and there's no appointments. Well, John said, don't worry, let me see what I can do. I got an appointment from John. He pulled some strings and got me an appointment.
Okay.
However, that was the day that I was getting cataract surgery. And if you notice on our promo, I have glasses, and I no longer wear glasses, only for driving. So I said, I called when the dental department called me and said, we have an appointment for you on this date. I said, oh, well, that's no good for me. I'm going in for cataract surgery. Can I have a different date? The woman said, well, I don't know. Hold on. I get a call later on in the day from the head of the dental department who says, no, we don't have any more appointments for another year. Go elsewhere. He basically told me I should not go to Jacoby. I should go elsewhere. Now, this is Jacoby Hospital telling a resident of the community not to go to Jacoby Hospital. Why is that?
I don't know. And how are they supposed to service all these new inmates that are going to be coming in that are going to be severely sick? How are they going to get attention if they could barely contact their own? And Jacoby Hospital right now has a 2 to 3 hour wait. And I know for sure that they're overwhelmed, because in the beginning of the week, my son was sick, and I was trying to find a hospital to take him to. I called Jacoby Medical Room, and they told me too, the same thing, pretty much, don't come here. We have no room. And if your kid can't breathe, find another hospital.
Well, like I said, they are now telling people, and I've gotten this from people inside the HHC system, that they are sending people from one hospital to another because certain hospitals cannot handle the load that they have.
Right. So how are
It's
we going to overload this community again with more people moving into here and building a complex that's going to need huge medical attention for inmates and against and above, like people who pay into the taxes and who try to do the good thing. So I just feel like this is again rewarding the criminals for the bad behavior.
Well, it's not rewarding the criminals; it's rewarding those who take care of the criminals. For instance, and this is where Fortune Society comes in. They're just going to be, I don't want to call them babysitters, but they're just going to be watching over. They, supposedly they'll be making arrangements for these medical, appointments that these people need. But
then who's going to pay the price? Because Jacoby can't even take care of the residents who are here now that need medical attention. So new people that just move in get to go front of the line.
Well, it's called supply and demand, and Jacoby wants to have an oversupply or an over demand for their supply of what they have. Okay, It's all the Medicaid, Medicare dollars. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. The safety part, well, like I said, like we were told by HHC, that these people will be able to go out of the property, go on to the BX12 bus, which means that they're probably going to be going to Harlem Hospital to get services or one of the other hospitals in the system. Maybe they'll be sent down to Lincoln Hospital to get services. We don't know. But these are people who are in jail currently, who are serving their sentences, who will be let out because of medical conditions as little as diabetes, and they will be put into hospitals like Jacoby, North Central Bronx. That's all that we know, that they're going to be all in the 2 Bronx hospitals. Okay, nowhere else. We're going to be going to a commercial very soon, and we're going to come back and discuss, Renata, there was a letter by City Limits or an article by City Limits that really was one.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your product and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the website they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our new site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.
Okay, let's get back to our show. Are you still with us, Renata?
Yes, I am.
Okay. There was an article published December 5th in City Limits. New York City needs thousands of apartments for formerly incarcerated. 50 face furious opposition. It's called Just Home, a New York City Health and Hospitals plan to convert an empty staff residence on the Jacoby Hospital campus into supportive housing for a few dozen people with serious mental problems discharged from Rikers is a pressure cooker for many of the most fraught issues the city's homelessness, mental health development, and the risk of crime, whether real or perceived. Each year, thousands of New York City residents cycle from the streets and shelters to Rikers Island jails with scant housing options to provide stability after their release, but building just 50 of those apartments is proving to be a problem. The plan faces the kind of backlash typical of projects that would bring low-income housing or services for the formerly homeless New York City middle and upper middle class neighborhoods with the debate informed by realities of race. Most people detained on Rikers are Black or Latino. Most Indian Village residents are white homeowners, and resentment towards neighborhood change and the accusation of discrimination. In essence, what they're starting to say here in the beginning is that it's a black and white issue, that the white homeowners who own the homes in Indian Village don't want to have the minority people, the Black and Latinos, living in Jacoby Hospital. Is that true?
I mean, I think that's a far statement from being true, to be honest with you. Indian Village, I think, is a community comprised of a very multicultural area. And I think this issue, again, has nothing to do with race. Race is always the easiest issue to pick up on because that's the easiest thing that as humans we could determine that's different about us. But at the end of the day, let's be honest. There's no difference if you're white, if you're Black, Spanish, or whatever the case is. At the end of the day, it's not about a race thing. This is about a safety issue. And this is what people seem to be missing. And of course, in New York City, if you look up the what's comprised of, yes, it is definitely comprised of majority of it being Black people and Hispanics. But then let's break it down and understand why is it being brought up like that. Is there real data out there that suggests that white people are locking up Black people and that's the reason why Black people are being put in jail? No, clearly that's not the issue. The issue more is that we have to look deeper. And Candace Owens, I don't know if you're familiar with her, did a whole special on this recently, and she's saying that the reason why like the Black people and the Hispanic people are winding up in jail, it has to do with the family, is because most of them are missing a father figure. I don't know if I agree with a lot of what she says, but those are one of the factors she says is contributing to a high population of Black and Hispanics being put in jail because of the fact that they're missing a father figure. Other reasons have to do with the fact, especially in New York, is that Black people and Hispanics make up the majority of the people that live in this area. And it's not like the majority of the people that live in the Bronx or in other boroughs are just white. We're in a time where we have all melting pots. Most of our races are not just pure white anymore, or what they're trying to be, because you see our skin types are white. You have lots of Spanish people that come from Cuba. Their skin is whiter than I am, and I'm white, but they're white. So because I don't think it has anything to do with your skin color. I think that we're looking at a different issue here. And in order to find out why more Black people or Spanish people wind up in jail, why don't we do some real research on it and find out why? And maybe Candace Owen is right that she talks about the fact that, the Blacks and Spanish people are less likely to grow up in a more traditional home where they see a father figure or a mother figure. So racism has nothing to do with this. This is, again, just for homes, and the people coming in here has to do with a safety issue. There's 5 schools within walking distance of where this building is. So which means that it's less than 10 blocks away, each of these schools. And this is what people don't seem to be concerned about. At one time, children were the most important people that we should protect. And that's who we should protect because they're the most innocent. They can't defend themselves. They don't come out of the womb, or they're not born with the ability to defend themselves. They're born innocent. And it's our job as a society to keep them innocent and to put the lives of our children in front of the criminals.
Correct. And
because they had a choice and they made their choices. Our children didn't even have a choice yet.
Yes. And as a former president of School District 10's President's Council, I used to go into schools and see those innocent faces in the elementary schools. By the time they were leaving the elementary school at 5th grade, they were already being recruited by gangs. And This is the problem, that the gangs take over the kids and become their family.
Correct. These are the main problems. These are the problems. And this is what we should talk about. We should talk about getting early intervention into these schools to stop them, to give. And that's why that Jacoby property over there would be great for a youth center to get kids after school, because a lot of parents around here, they work. Both parents work. The kids go home to an empty house, and, wandering time and empty time is the devil's playground. When you have an idle time, trust me, you could get yourself into a lot of trouble. But if there was a youth center around, and there's no youth center in Morris Park, there's nothing, there is no form of youth investment in this community. And maybe that's what we should think about for that building, is building like a youth center or like a domestic violence shelter, something where the kids would be benefiting from this, because there's nothing in this area, as opposed to saying that criminals are number one, and because they made bad choices, we have to change our lifestyle for them.
And, one more thing about the area, it's Jacoby Hospital is right in the middle of many neighborhoods. When you go across East Chester Road, you have a small little area which has an Icon charter school in there and has several apartment buildings already over there. And that's where the Metro North Station will be, on the other side of East Chester Road. Then when you cross over Pelham Parkway, you have Pelham Gardens and you have the Allerton area. When you come across, you come through Indian Village into Pelham Parkway neighborhood, where the Pelham Parkway Neighborhood Association is. And then when you go a little further down below, you have the Morris Park community, as you say, where our borough president, Vanessa Gibson, has moved. She has moved into the Morris Park area, all right? Which is not, she lives a little off of Bronxdale Avenue, from what I'm not going to give her exact address, okay? But, and I believe, when I spoke to the mayor about that White Plains Road homeless shelter, okay, that was going in with 140 single men. When I said to him that we already have scheduled 200 men going in on Blondale Avenue, and now 200 more single men going on in Popham Street. Okay, so we have 400. Now you're adding another 140. I said, that's too many single men. But I believe, and knowing now where Borough President Gibson lives, it's not too far from that White Plains Road shelter that would have been. So, when she came to I was co-chair of a community organization, a community-led group against that homeless shelter. When she came, Borough President Gibson, 6 weeks after I spoke to the mayor, and said that the mayor has decided not to put that homeless shelter there. Okay. I don't know if he's getting back at us by putting this at Jacoby or not. But we do have buildings going up, and there's going to be a meeting Monday at Community Board 11 about a building going up where it was a former Key Food. Now it's a Fine Fare that they're going to close, and 300 units are going up there with the supermarket underneath it. Now, that's going to, and if they're getting any city or state money, they have to have 15% homeless. In all new buildings, this was a rule passed by the city council. Any new apartment building that gets city funding must have 15% homeless. So we're looking at 45 homeless apartments there. Now we have another 300 going around the corner where D'Alessio supermarket used to be on Allerton Avenue. So that'll be another 45 homeless apartments for homeless people. So this is how the city is doing it. And then they want homeless shelters too. It's good that they're putting the apartments in because people will have a stable apartment. But let's get back to the article on from City Limits or whatever it was. They say that the building 2, where these people will be held, is separated from Indian Village by a brick wall and fence. Now, that's not true, because there is a back entrance to Jacoby Hospital on Seminole Avenue. The address is 1734 Seminole Avenue, which is right off of Morris Park Avenue. It's a back entrance to Jacoby Hospital. In between that entrance and this so-called building 2 are about 20 or 25 homes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
Which abut the hospital property.
Correct.
All right. And there's no wall really behind there. They're just fences. And
just little fences that is probably up to the waist.
And Fortune Society is mentioned here that, that they operate a similar supportive housing site in Hamilton Heights called Castle Gardens, with another one in East Harlem.
Yeah, I just want to talk about, they keep comparing it to Newcastle, that it's going to be filled with it. But when you actually go see Riker, once you go see Newcastle, their facility over there, that facility, before they built it, used to be built in a crack den. So the community over there welcomed it because, number one, it would have been anything better than what was there. And number two, there are no former inmates from Riker Island currently residing over there. From my understanding, the only people that are residing there are low-income housing, and also formerly people who are addicted to drugs that wanted to change over their lives. But they have also completed a huge program and gone through a process in order to get an apartment in there. So with them talking about that they have places like this already, it's very funny because when you go actually look at the research, it is not there.
Well, now they then go on and talk about a person who they claim lives a few blocks from Jacoby Hospital. She is the leader of an organization called the Friends of Pelham Parkway. And she says that opposing Just Home is hypocritical, pointing to similar public backlash against homeless shelters or homeless encampments from the same critics who oppose the new affordable housing development. We can't complain about problems, and then when there is a viable solution, say, no, I don't want it here. Now, this person does not live blocks from Jacoby Hospital. I live 7 blocks from Jacoby Hospital. I know this person, and she lives about 15 blocks or maybe a mile away from Jacoby Hospital.
Correct.
So and
wasn't
then,
she also against the homeless shelter that was going to be built on the methadone clinic?
Yes, she was. She was against that methadone clinic that was at 2500 White Plains Road.
Right.
She said, not here. We don't want it. We don't need it. But, what happens is it's just that, and Marjorie Velazquez is the person that's going to have to vote on it. Her spokesperson in the article said the council member was traveling. She was in Israel with several other council members and the borough president on a tour. But that, and it says that Velazquez sent city limits a statement saying she has had many conversations about the project with city agencies, Jacoby Hospital, Fortune Society, and local community groups. Has council member Velazquez met with the Mothers Against 1900 Seminole?
No, she's not taking any calls from this community at this time. Even the Morris Park Association has reached out to her, and several other members of this community has also reached out to her. She did do a Zoom with some of the members of this community, but she had a spokesperson doing most of the talking, and she was just in the background. And she hasn't really attended many of the events that have been taking place in this community either. It's clearly that she's hiding from this community because she hasn't put any face forward.
Well, that's what she did basically with the Bruckner upzoning. She said, I'm against it, I'm against it, I'm against it.
Yeah,
and
put
then,
nothing in writing.
All right, but the fact that she's met with proponents of this project and not opponents of the project should tell us something.
It does.
All right, and if you're listening, Marjorie, or Councilwoman Velazquez, or any staff member, why aren't you meeting with the Mothers Against 1900 and hear what they have to say? You've met with the other side. Why not meet with this side? But going on a little more, they have people talking about how a Phyllis Sacco, they mentioned in the article, who lives a few blocks from the wall separating the hospital campus, who's lived there 28 years. Maybe it's people who were sick and disabled and couldn't leave the premise. I'd support it. I'm afraid for the kids, for myself. I added her neighbor, and I won't mention the name. I'm thinking of selling. Now, I understand there are a lot of for sale signs going up in Indian Village.
They are.
All right. And unfortunately, what that does is that defeats the purpose. People need that.
No, you could go.
People need to fight this because, you win, you can beat City Hall, as was proven with the White Plains Road shelter. This is not a given. It may be on paper, just like those Metro North stations. They were on paper since 1993, and they won't be built until 2027. So it's 25 years. Supposedly, this property, this building number 2, is only going to be coming into existence when Rikers Island closes in 2027. And Rikers Island is only closing, and what should be done is it should be fixed up and redone rather than closed.
Correct. I agree 110% because Rikers Island have served this community and it's done a great job under the right regime for years and years. But unfortunately, it needs some help like everything else in life. It needs a new face.
The only reason Rikers Island is closing is because New York State spent $25 billion on LaGuardia Airport to bring it into a world-class airport. And to bring in the big jumbo jets, they can't bring in big jets yet. They have to extend the runways. And where are they going to extend it? Onto where Rikers Island used to be. Okay. That's the reason, one of the main reasons Rikers is closing. Okay. Because if Fortune Society can take this building over and make it into a much better building, why can't we take Rikers Island building by building and rehab them and make them better?
And there should be a facility on Rikers Island where inmates can circle into a form of a community where they live on their own and they come and go as they please. And if they do good over there, then fine. Then I'm sure there's plenty of apartments and there's plenty of places to get them help. But without, again, no form of research or recidivism rate that stated that this will do any good, it's just a project that just seems like it was put together in the fly-by-night.
Well, not only that, but when we look at city-owned properties like NYCHA buildings, New York City Housing Authority buildings, those are the worst places, okay?
Right, but you know that those places don't accept criminals of some form.
You're kidding.
Nope. New York City, look it up. New York City Housing Authority, for whatever you want to say, does not accept people with criminal backgrounds. A lot of criminals cannot even populate into New York City Housing Authority because that's why they have the big problem here, because they can't go into public housing. Why?
That's interesting. That's very interesting. And where is our city council members on that, changing that rule?
Right. Like that's a federal policy because they know for sure that they can't have a prisoner because they know they're going to get sued in case if one of those prisoners probably kills somebody. Let's be honest.
That's amazing. But as I was about to say, though, I've been in some of these NYCHA buildings, Castle Hill, and a couple others and we even look at the one by Bronxwood Avenue on Pelham Parkway. They've had a boiler outside in the street.
Oh, yeah.
How many years? For 5-10 years already. Okay. Yep. And when I spoke to Mayor de Blasio in 2018 about NYCHA, I said, I'm going to events where elected officials have to bring stoves and refrigerators, all right, rather than NYCHA putting in replacements. And these are over 5 years people are waiting.
Right.
Mayor de Blasio told me the state and federal government owe the city $18 billion for NYCHA to upgrade NYCHA. Well, that figure is now about $60 billion. Okay, so it just keeps going down the drain. And you know what? If the Health and Hospitals Corporation has let this building deteriorate to where it is now, what are they going to do when it's occupied by people who don't care about the building? Because when you have people who are just living there, all right, and unfortunately, this is going to wind up like a NYCHA house or anything else. Yep. I don't care who's running it, because it's Health and Hospitals, it's a city, and the city is its worst slumlord.
Yep, that's for sure.
Okay, now, let me go to another page. A 2008 study by the Furman Center found that property values actually increased following introduction of a supportive housing site. I don't know how, because they mentioned a Pawnee Place house is listed for sale at $899,000. Now, if I'm the owner of that property, I may take less money just to get away.
Go downstairs. Yeah, I'm listening.
So have you seen prices come down in Indian Village because people want to sell?
I mean, unfortunately, it's just probably the way the market works, supply and demand. Indian Village has always been an area where it's hard to find a house. So the house prices in there are usually a little bit more expensive because a lot of houses don't go on the market. But now, because it's saturated with so many houses on the market, I do think that some of the property value does go down.
Again, we're talking. Here in the article, it goes, Jacoby could have done something better with that building, someone says. The most vocal opponents have merged misinformation with familiar apprehension. And I don't know why the Bronx Republican Party is mentioned. The Bronx Republican Party has dubbed the plan Jacoby Hospital's Rikers Release Project. Have you heard that statement?
No.
I haven't.
No, never. No.
All right. It's just that some of the people living in Indian Village are Republicans, while others are Democrats.
Right.
All right. I live technically in Indian Village. I'm on Williamsbridge and Leidig. That's the end of Indian Village, and I'm a Democrat.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been a Democrat for almost all of my life, except for about 2 or 3 years when I ran against Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz in the 81st Assembly District on the Independence Party line. When it was created in 1994, I went into the Independence Party and then returned a few years later back to the Democratic Party. So, and I know a lot of my neighbors are Democrats, so I can't see how
Indian Village, I think, is a very Democratic area for a long time. And if you look, I think there are definitely a lot of registered Democrats in that area too. So I don't think that's any.
And they quote that the meeting that was held at the first meeting that was held at Maestro's has developed into frenzied chaos, as the Bronx Times has reported, as members and attendees shouted discriminatory slogans about the formerly incarcerated while drowning out even those threatening supporters. I believe we had, 5 supporters of the project?
Yes, there are 5 supporters total, probably, of this entire project.
Okay. Now it goes at an October community board leadership meeting, former assembly candidate Gene DeFrancis, who is not a member of the community board, criticized the plan, calling it a ghetto-style building. Now, I was at that meeting, and I don't remember that. Then it quotes Al D'Angelo, the community board vice chair, started an online fundraiser to fight the proposal. And would you talk a little bit about that? Because we have about 5 minutes left. And please talk about how the community is fighting this with a fundraiser. And the community has to hire a lawyer to fight this, actually.
Right. So right now, Al D'Angelo has taken it upon himself to hire an attorney, and the attorney is very costly. We started a GoFundMe page, and so far we've raised about, I want to say $11,000, but they say that this attorney and court fees might cost anywhere between $50,000 to $60,000. So this year we're going to try to do various fundraising. We're going to start the new year off. I think it's going to be January 29th, the last Sunday in January, between 2:30 and 5. We're going to have a penny sale where people could come out, bid on different items, give some support, give a donation in support of the attorney. I think we're also going to have FOIA requests that we're going to ask residents to mail out to the various government agencies to inundate them with some form of information for us to understand why this project has been chosen here and how come we were never really properly informed of it till the plans were already in place. Next year, we're also going to do various protests as well, and we're going to try to support candidates who run against Marjorie Velasquez. We're going to support candidates who run against Marjorie Velasquez and are against the Just for Homes projects, and also for some of this affordable housing.
Yes, people have asked me to run for city council, but
are you going to run, Bob?
I'm probably not going to run, and I'll work with you to help support somebody. Now, again, Marjorie Velasquez, Councilwoman Velasquez, why are you not meeting with this group, Mothers Against 1900 Seminole? Why not tell them all the virtues of this if you think you're for it? Okay, tell the community, tell me, tell Renata and the others why this is good for the community, what it's going to be doing for the community. This is a community who is very concerned and has been concerned. And it's the Morris Park Community Association who has taken the umbrella of this, okay? And the community has changed over the years, okay, as you said, and we have not had any problems. Nobody has said anything, okay? The Van Ness community has changed really over the years, and that community will be changing again when the train station comes in. Those homes, as I mentioned, will be gone near the train station, and apartment buildings will be built there. This is part of the 6,000 homes that the mayor is talking about. And unfortunately, I wish the mayor would bring to the community what he plans to do, rather than just saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this.
Bring the community in to make us a part of the solution, or at least get the community involved, so that we feel like we know what's going on and we feel secure as individuals raising our family here, because our children, again, is the most important thing in this world.
And that people who say there aren't any affordable housing in the 13th Council District should not be yelling at Marjorie Velazquez. They should be looking at the individual community boards. And Community Board 11 will have at least 1,000 new or already established affordable housing units in their stock by the next year or two. Okay, so you can't say that Community Board 11 doesn't have it. We do. We're getting
we are saturated here.
We are getting 2 shelters. As a matter of fact, there was a group home proposal which was denied by the state because the state said there are too many group homes in Community Board 11. All right. It's not Council District 13, but it's Community Board 11 that we're fighting for.
Right.
Okay. And with that, I want to thank you for coming on our show.
Well, thank you, Bob, for having me.
And there was a party last night where members of the community came together and donated some goods, some toys, and whatever.
For the domestic violence shelter, Safe Haven. That's where we were raising toys. I think we got over 1,000, maybe $3,000-4,000 worth of toys. It was a great event.
Kevin Diola. All right, Kevin, I'm going to give you a call after the show. I want you to come on next week to discuss the bike lanes. But I want to say thank you for watching and have a good day.
Okay, bye, guys. Bye, Bob. Okay, wait, hold on. I gotta get it.
Well,
in a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet,